What's up, hockey fans? Welcome to another edition of Just Winging It. We have a special guest joining us today who left a huge impact on the Kalamazoo Wings in this community in his 23 years with the hockey team, dating back from 1978 to 2001. Please welcome Steve Doherty. Steve, thanks for doing this. Appreciate you joining the program.
John, it's a pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Obviously, you've been in Kalamazoo a long time. You spent a number of years with the Kalamazoo Wings from the early days, and we'll get into that in a second. But I just want to ask first off, how's 2021 treating you so far? I know 2020 was a tough year for a lot of people. How's the new year treating you? What's new?
Well, you know what? Just trying to stay busy. Recently retired, and as I mentioned before we went on the air here, it's a good year to retire and a bad year to retire. Not a lot of things to do, but you know what? We're trying. My wife and I are trying to keep busy. We're into fly fishing, so we do some of that, and haven't been able to travel around and visit the kids at all, which would be nice, and the grandchildren. But you know what? We walk every day, 3 to 6 miles, and we eat a lot and drink a lot. It's been a lot of fun.
I was going to say, so many people have been impacted by this pandemic, and usually it's their work that's impacted, but you're the first person we've talked to that retired this year and has had the pandemic impact them in a different way. So the good news is it sounds like we're turning the corner, hopefully, and you'll get to travel a little bit more this year.
Well, you know what? We're hoping so for sure. You know, we had our first Pfizer shot, and I've got my second one coming up here later this week. So we're pretty excited about that, and can't wait for that to happen. And hopefully it'll open the doors for us to do some traveling and visit our children all around the country.
You got to Kalamazoo in 1978, as I mentioned. You started out as the director of public relations, a position that I know, at least the modern day version of that position here with the team. At the end of your stint with your long, career in Kalamazoo with the K-Wings, you were the VP and general manager. I heard that you even coached a couple of games. So is there anything you didn't do in your time with the K-Wings?
I'm sorry, come again once more. I started to laugh and didn't hear your question.
I was going to say, is there anything that you didn't do? I mean, did you lace up the skates and skate alongside Shammy and Neil Meadmore and the guys? Or is it?
Well, I did that during practice. I never did it during a game. The only thing I didn't do, I didn't drive the Zamboni between periods. I did drive the Zamboni because I did want that experience, and I did play around on it out on the ice on off days, but I never did drive the Zamboni.
It's amazing. I mean, the saying that I grew up with in my era is you wear a lot of hats in the minor leagues. You have to, right? It's something that you sign up for. For me, it's broadcasting, PR, media relations, social media, marketing. You did all those things and then some in your era. So not much has changed from that standpoint. Now that you're out of it, what has changed in your opinion from when you started in that type of role to watching from afar?
Well, when I get into the game, came to Kalamazoo in 1978, aside from our general manager, there were only 2 of us in the office. There was me and Terry Ficcarelli, the play-by-play broadcaster. And Terry and I did basically everything. Everything off ice, I should say. Downstairs you had your coach and your trainer. But aside from that, it was a very, very small operation. And I sit back now and I look at some of the luxuries you have as a minor league team with all of the employees and people that do different facets of the industry and what it takes to put a game on each and every night. It's amazing. And I only wished that we had that opportunity to have that many employees when we were working. We would have worked a heck of a lot less. I may have put 23 years in, but it feels like 43.
You mentioned Terry Ficcarelli, a legend, obviously, not only in Michigan, but in minor league hockey, the career he has had and continues to have. In those early days, when you first got to town, you even did some color commentary with Fick. What was that like? I know he's got some great catchphrases. Did you have any favorites?
Well, you know what? It's funny. I started out, I was hired by Bob Lemieux, the general manager, and Bob had me in and he said, Doherty, you're going to do public relations, you're going to do this and that, and 1,000 other things. You're going to do marketing and sales. And right before our first game on the road, I think it was the first game of the season, we were going to Port Huron, if I'm not mistaken. And he said, Doherty, he said, you're on the radio with Ficcarelli. I said, what? I said, I don't have any radio experience. He said, no, you're on the radio with Ficcarelli. So Terry the fixture, he wasn't too pleased with that idea because he was a one-man show. And to have me tag along and you know, be the rookie, the neophyte, the guy that didn't know anything about broadcasting, I was cast into that position. And quite frankly, we had a really, really good chemistry together. It took a while to get there, mind you, but we did have a good chemistry together. And I learned an awful lot about broadcasting. And when Fick left Kalamazoo and Mike Miller came in his replacement, I did some work with Mike. And when Mike left and went to New Jersey, I wound up taking over the broadcasting, and I was doing the play-by-play for a year, almost 2 years, I think. So I did not only my public relations work, but I did the on-air broadcasting as well. And it was a lot of fun. We had an awful lot of fun. But yeah, we did just about everything. And Fick and I worked together for 7-8 years, I think it was. And you know what, I could go on and on with things he used to say on the air, and some funny stories and some not so funny stories. But to your point, favorite phrases, gosh, I don't know. Sticks come down, puck not dropped. You know, sticks still come down, puck still not dropped. You know, he had a ton of them, and they were all fun.
Absolutely. And I don't know if anybody's going to ever have the mustache caliber or the legacy that his mustache carries with him in minor league hockey ever again. I mean, it's pretty impressive. You guys have maintained your friendship throughout the years as well. I mean, the last time I saw Fick was the first time I think I met you, and it was at Nisker's for one of the alumni gatherings, and it was almost exactly a year ago now, right before the pandemic hit. What does it mean to have a lot of those relationships that you've built throughout the years and continue to stay in touch with those guys with the K-Wings alumni base getting together, hopefully again soon, now that the pandemic's kind of wrapping up, hopefully?
Well, I have a lot of great friendships that were developed over the years, and Fick, of course, being one of the very first, along with Alvin White. Alvin was working in the office. Alvin came in as a part-time guy in the off season, my very first year there in 1978, and so I got to know Alvin very well as addition to Fick. And those friendships have carried over all of these years, and not just guys that stuck around town. I've made a lot of friends, and those friendships continue. Former players, former coaches. In fact, I talked to Ken Hitchcock just last week. He and I spoke for a while. Claude Noel and I stay in touch usually once every 3-4 weeks. And hopefully when this pandemic ends, we're going to head back out towards Phoenix. I'm going to visit with Claude a little bit out there as well. So friendships are wonderful. Hockey people are wonderful. I do miss those relationships, and it's so much fun when we do get together at Nisker's and start to trade old stories and tell a whole bunch of lies and embellish them, and it makes and we can tell the same stories over and over and over again, and they get funnier each time you hear them.
For me, it was a great experience just being able to take it all in and almost be a sponge with so many guys that have been around and left an impact on this community long before I got here, to get to meet you all. And what was most impressive to me is how many stayed around Kalamazoo. I mean, what does that say about Kalamazoo as a hockey town? Obviously the history of the team nearing 50 years now, but so many of these players and staff members have stuck around the area.
Well, I think it says something to the effect that Kalamazoo has a lot of good looking girls. And our guys found these girls, and these girls managed to keep them here in town. So, but you know, it was a great community. These guys were so well embraced by this community, and a lot of them come from small little towns where there just wasn't a whole lot there. And when they got to Kalamazoo, which to some of these guys, it was the big city, they had a great time here. Met their girlfriends and their future wives, and settled in. They wound up making business contacts while playing. And when they get out of the game, they had jobs. And it was just a wonderful progression for these players. And I'm really glad that so many have stuck around and continued on and contributing to this community in different forms and methods that they have.
I've asked some of the players about the Turner Cup years, the 2 back-to-back championships. Obviously, almost had a third. But I wanted to hear your perspective of that whole experience, because you had a much different experience maybe than they did, having been on the ice. You were in the front office, part of the team. what was the most memorable about that era?
I was part of the magic. My first 3 years, we had 3 championship teams. It was a great experience, a wonderful experience. That first Turner Cup was something that, so many guys. Well, it was our 5th year. It was the 5th year of the franchise, and many of these players had been around that long or close to being that long, and it was extremely special for them, given all the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into this franchise. And it culminated with a championship in 1979. Just to be a part of that and be around all of that was thrilling for me. Goodness, how many people come into a job, a professional sports job, and win a championship their very first year, and then to have it repeat the second year, and then the third year, we had probably the best team of all of them, and we lost in 4 straight games due to a number of different reasons, but 3 great teams, and that whole championship aura surrounded this team. We were always looked at as the team to replicate in the International Hockey League because we were so successful and really in such a short period of time. Bob Lemieux was general manager and coach for a while, and then Pete Slater coming in as coach and Bill Purcell following him. They built on these teams year after year after year and improved every year. And I think Bob had a plan right from the beginning. And in his 5th season, it culminated with a Turner Cup championship. And man, you can't do much better than that.
And as is evident in any sports, in any league, winning a championship is not an easy task. I think those teams that in that era maybe made it look easy, winning 2 straight, and then the 3rd year almost winning back to back to back. Look at how long it's been since the last championship, and there's only been 1 since those Turner Cup championships.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you 100%. It was a very special time in Kalamazoo history, not just the franchise, but the community history, because everybody seemed to embrace this hockey team here, the only pro hockey team in Kalamazoo. And it was wonderful to win that first year, and then to do it again the second year. Our fan base just seemed to grow, and Kalamazoo Wings was something extremely special in this town because of the championship that they had won and the recognition that they brought to this town.
March 17th, 1982. What does that date mean to you?
That was, St. Patrick's Day, obviously. And it was our very first green ice game that we had here in Kalamazoo. And it's been a special date each and every year here in Kalamazoo, simply because it's been the biggest and best one-night promotion that this franchise has ever had. The success in terms of people at the gate and the excitement and the enthusiasm and even the team record. It's just been a wonderful, wonderful experience, and I'm thrilled to be a part of it.
That first green ice game, do you have any idea that it was going to take off like it did? Do you have a sense of pride now, knowing that a lot of other teams have taken that idea and it's a regular event now across minor league hockey?
Yeah, it's pretty neat that we were the ones that started it here in Kalamazoo, Michigan. I don't know that we ever knew it was going to explode the way that it did and become as large and successful as it has become. Like any sports marketing person, particularly in the minor leagues, your job is to try and put people in the seats in the building. And, like any other minor league team, I wouldn't say we're struggling, but we always wanted to do better. And we had a meeting one evening or one afternoon, and the topic came up, what are we going to do to try and put some people in the building? And St. Patrick's Day was approaching. We had a game on the 17th, and I said, let's just dye the ice green. And the reason I said that, and I kind of said it as a joke, but when I was a youth growing up in the Boston area, we skated these outdoor rinks. They're called MDC rinks in the Boston area, and they had a green plastic cover that went over the surface. It was an open air arena, but it was a plastic cover that went across the ice. And in the evening when we skated, or even during the daytime, when the sun came through that plastic roof, that green plastic roof, or when the lights were on, it cast a green image on the ice surface. And I always thought that was kind of cool. They had green ice out there, and it was only because of the natural lighting and the color of the roof. And jokingly, I said, why don't we dye the ice green? I was thinking back to my youth, and I said, let's dye the ice green and see what happens on St. Patrick's Day. And everyone kind of laughed and joked, and we fussed around with it for a little bit. And then we kind of all came to an agreement that, yeah, we ought to try this, and let's try and figure it out and see what we can do and see what we can come up with. And thus, March 17, 1982, the first green ice game came off.
When we have front office meetings and there's a new idea brought to the table, there's always some sort of pushback, whether it be, what if this happens, or, this maybe won't do as well as you think it will. Did you have pushback that meeting you talk about where you brought this idea to the table, half jokingly? Were there people that said you're crazy?
No, because there weren't that many people in the meeting. We had a very small staff. And, I think probably the most difficult people to convince about the whole evening was the league office. We had to let them know what we were going to do, and the visiting team let them know what we were going to do. And it was bizarre. I mean, no one had ever heard of anything like this. And we had to talk to the coaches, and the coaches weren't convinced that they were going to be able to see the puck and blah, blah, blah. And the goalies were concerned because they were the ones getting shot at, and they weren't thinking they were going to be able to see the puck. So we had to kind of educate the coaches and the players. But, when it was all said and done, we just plowed ahead with this thing. And when tickets started to sell, everyone knew it was going to be pretty big. And we could see the sellout approaching, and we thought, we might have something here, so let's not screw it up.
Players nowadays, and not just players, but, coaches, media, they'll make a big deal about bad ice conditions or how the ice maybe affected the play or the puck bouncing around everywhere. And the one funny story that I gathered from talking to you guys out at Niskers was that the ice that night, the first game, was kind of a mess because of the food coloring. Did you have any players come up to you and chew you out afterwards, or was that something that was a topic that was
not at all? No, not at all. Everybody was thrilled. They were playing in front of a standing room only crowd, the largest crowd we had seen in years, over 5,400 people. And we won the game, if I'm not mistaken. It was just a fun night, and everybody there had a great time. I think, if anything, we kind of laughed and joked about all the things that went wrong during that evening, and the players included. We laughed about it all, but it was just, overall, it was just a great experience. And we knew when it was over with that we needed to start planning for 1983. And what do we do to fix all of these mistakes that we had made? And we made a ton of them, but it was a great evening, great evening. We received so much in terms of publicity, locally and eventually nationally. Yeah, it was just a great experience. USA Today came to one of our games, and we were on the front page of the sports section of USA Today. We had the NHL approach us, and they interviewed me along with some others between periods, and that was placed on one of their broadcasts for an intermission segment. So we received all kinds of recognition nationally, which is really wonderful.
And now Kalamazoo has the orange ice and the pink ice, and last year was the lavender ice for Hockey Fights Cancer. So not only did this green ice idea in 1982 take off here in Kalamazoo, other teams copied it in other markets, and now Kalamazoo's known for their colored ice games. And it all started with that one idea back in 82. It's pretty cool to see it take off. I'm sure for you, especially being really the brains behind the operation from the get-go.
Well, you know what? We also started the pink ice. We were the first team to start the pink ice as well. It was a year or two following the green ice. And we did some interesting things on that event. It was a Valentine's Day event. We had Valentine's Day coming up, and once again, we were looking for something to do, and we decided to try the pink ice. We wanted to do more colored ice games, but our ownership at that time said, Doherty, so, 2 of them a year is enough. Let's just keep playing hockey. We were a very traditional sports team here in Kalamazoo. In fact, I think Kalamazoo, although they were the first to do green ice, I think we were the last minor league team in the country to put any type of advertising on the dasher boards. Our owner liked the white boards and didn't want any writing on it and didn't want anything on the ice. So we had a very, very traditional team here in Kalamazoo, an ownership group in Kalamazoo, but they enjoyed the fun as well, and it turned out to be a great time. And I know that a lot of other teams have tried to do green ice shortly after we started, and many of them attempted at one time and ran into issues and never did it again. But there are some teams, I guess, as you well know, that have picked it up and continue that tradition as well.
Last one on this topic, purely out of curiosity, and your opinion's really one of the only ones that I'm curious to hear from, being that you obviously have a lot of PR experience and were involved in the original green ice game. This last season, before the pandemic ended this season, was the first year the K-Wings were going to shift green ice off of St. Patty's Day, move it to a weekend, and again, to build the attendance possibilities of a Saturday night game, ended up turning it into green ice weekend as this big spectacle. Now, in hindsight, we would have had 2 sellouts had we played those games, but I know there was a lot of pushback because of the tradition of green ice being on St. Patty's Day. So your floor, your opinion is one of the only ones that I want to hear from.
Well, you know what? If you go back, look through the record books, we actually did a few games that were not on St. Patrick's Day, the 17th. We tried to get those Friday and Saturday night dates when we could, but there were times when I think we played a Wednesday or Thursday night St. Patrick's Day, and they didn't draw as well. I mean, we had a pretty good sellout record on St. Patrick's Day. Those midweek games were tough. I love the idea of expanding it and keeping that green ice in and playing 2 games in a row on it to give people the opportunity to see the green ice. You know, we were always looking for ideas, new things to do. We eventually invited the public to do a general skate or a public skate after our game so people could get on the ice. They wanted to get on the ice and see the green ice. So I think doing the double game, the way you guys have planned it, was a fun idea. And man, if you can sell 2 games out, that's the name of the game. It's the absolute name of the game. So if you have to dye the ice purple or pink or whatever color, if you can fill that building, keep dyeing it.
You bring up a good point, though. Ultimately, you're at the mercy of the schedule makers. Sometimes it doesn't, the chips don't fall in your corner. Shifting gears here, I only have a couple more for you, Steve. And you've seen a lot of great players come through Kalamazoo, having been here for 23 years. We're approaching our 50th anniversary as a team. The last full season before the pandemic, the 18-19 season, we retired Kevin Shamahorn's jersey number and George Gagno's jersey number. In your eyes, just your opinion, who are some of the names on the short list to be next in line for retiring jersey numbers? Because I'm sure that's a topic that's going to come up here in the coming years.
Well, you know what? I'm not up to date with a lot of the newer players, the players that have been here maybe the last 15 years or so. So it would be tough for me. I'd hate to leave guys out that probably should be on that list. I can certainly look back at players that have been around for a long time and played in the early days of the IHL, and the guys that are still in town here. You know, you take a guy like a Neil Meadmore. I think Meter spent 7 years in Kalamazoo playing, if I'm not mistaken. You know, he's one that probably could be on that list. Gosh, you know, there's so many players. It's really hard to, you know, Meter comes to mind right away, but there are an awful lot of players. If you give me a day, I'll get back to you with a list.
Well, here's the thing. So I put you on the spot there, and I should have warned you ahead of time. But if there is a decision to be made, we'll keep you in consideration on the committee, because again, for a couple different eras of K-Wings hockey. Yeah,
I'd love to do that.
Last one. You talk about some of the things you guys did for attendance and boosting attendance, and kind of understanding that there's a group of hockey fans that are the diehards, the hockey aficionados, the traditionalists, and then knowing the way minor league hockey has kind of shifted in minor league sports in general, the promotions and some of the theme nights, some of those types of things will bring hopefully more people to the arena and families to the arena. The attendance has gone up over the last 5 years. There was a period where, you know, the attendance kind of took a dive, and it looks like it's trending in the right direction, which we're obviously happy about here. You mentioned it in a previous interview I saw a few years back, that the game has changed so much at the minor league level, and again, shifted from those hockey aficionados to more of the promotions. How does Kalamazoo make it another 50? Because I think 50 years is something a lot of markets would die for and strive for. There's a lot of teams that make it 2 or 3 years and fold. Kalamazoo's approaching 50. It seems like a great hockey market. Is this something that can make it to 100?
Boy, I tell you, that's a good question. I'm not sure I have the answer for that. I might have you, I might refer to the people down at Fort Wayne. They've been there for quite a while and have been extremely successful, as you well know. They do a great job in Fort Wayne, and they've got a great fan base down there. You know, it's interesting. Even when I worked for the franchise here in Kalamazoo, I always felt that Kalamazoo was a bad sports town. And it doesn't apply to just hockey. You take a look at Western football as an example. You got a stadium of 30,000 over there, and they wind up with 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 people at a game. People in this community, it seems, really look to the bigger sports. They like the Michigans, the Big Ten teams. They like the Major League Baseball and the National Hockey League, and it's great that we've got a professional team here in Kalamazoo. But you really have to work hard to put people in this building at the minor league level. We're a smaller town, call it 100,000 people. It's not like Grand Rapids where you have 250, 300,000 people and a greater base to draw from. We also played in the early days at a higher level in terms of leagues. The East Coast Hockey League is a great league. It's a great development league, some great hockey, some wonderful players in that league. Take a look at those that have graduated and gone on to the National Hockey League. You know, a huge list. But you know what? People in this town, the higher you can go league-wise, the more they appreciate it, I think, the more turnout. So, if you're an American Hockey League team here in Kalamazoo, I think you do better than if you're an East Coast Hockey League team. But that probably isn't going to happen. And therefore, you've got to work hard at trying to get these people, convert these people into minor league hockey fans. And it's not an easy task. You know what? I spent 23 years here, and obviously I wasn't completely successful, or we would have sold out all 41 hockey games that we played at home. And we didn't do that. You might sell out 4 or 5 or 6 a season. So you've got to find ways to improve on that. We tried promotions, all types of promotions. We were the first ones to bring in the San Diego Chicken. And what we do? We sold out the building, and we brought them in year after year after year. We were the first ones to bring in Claude, the Happy Trumpeteer, another crazy guy from Quebec, and he sold out the building. I hated that because people were coming to watch these goofballs run around the ice in chicken outfits and playing the trumpet, and they weren't there to watch the game. And I was such a traditionalist and loved the game of hockey so much, as do and did all of the players back in that era. I wanted people here because they loved hockey, not because the San Diego Chicken was here. And I came to realize also that, if you want to fill the building in this community, you better do some things that people enjoy. And those just happen to be a few of them. And in this day and age, you want to try to keep it fresh. You've got to try and find new ways, new things, new opportunities to bring people in. And winning always helps. And I know you guys have struggled a little bit of that lately, but it doesn't hurt to be a winner on top of everything else that goes on in this town. And competition. I mean, my goodness, back 20, 30 years ago, we didn't have cable television like you have now, and Netflix and all these other things to keep people home on a cold, snowy, rainy night, whatever it might be. You got all of these factors coming at you, and your job is difficult. There's no question about it, but it can be done. It can be done. It's a great town, and I think people here will respond. And maybe taking a year off, it'll just refresh everything. The work has yet to begun for you guys to try and cultivate these people that are out there in this community and remind them that this is the only professional sports team in Kalamazoo, and we are coming back, and we are going to have a championship team again at some point in time. But we need your support. We need your help. And it can happen. 50 years? I don't know. I hope so, but I don't know. I won't be around. So I will have to leave that to you young guys. Work that out.
Steve, I appreciate your insight and your stories. Congratulations on retirement, by the way. I hope you finally get to enjoy it now that the pandemic is starting to hopefully go away here pretty soon. All the best to you. I'm looking forward to the next alumni gathering in Niskers. It'll be fun.
Yeah, likewise, John. Always great to see you, and keep up the good work doing these little segments. They've been very entertaining and informative, and these are the things that you have to do, like we just talked about, to try and keep people on board. So best of luck doing that, and way to go. Keep it going.
Thank you, sir. Take care.
Thanks, John. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, you as well.
Okay.